There is an old saying that has stood the test of time: the day you stop making excuses is the day your life begins to change. Yet most people never reach that day. They spend their entire lives pointing fingers at their parents, their circumstances, their bosses, their luck, and even the weather. They become experts at finding reasons why nothing is ever their fault. But here is the hard truth: as long as you blame others for where you are, you give others the power to determine where you are going. Today's story is about a young man who learned this lesson the hard way. It will challenge the way you think, and if you are honest with yourself, it might just change your life. So stay with us until the end. I promise it will be worth your time. In a small town nestled between two mountains, there lived a young man named Arian. He was 26 years old, sharp-minded, and full of talent. Anyone who spent 5 minutes with him could see that he had something special: a quick wit, a natural ability with numbers, and a gift for speaking confidently. Yet Arian was stuck. He had been working as a low-paid assistant at a local accounting firm for 4 years. He lived in a rented room, struggled to pay his bills at the end of every month, and watched his old classmates buy cars and build careers while he stayed right where he was. But ask Arian why he was struggling, and he had an answer ready, always. My boss never promotes people fairly. He only promotes his favorites. My parents couldn't afford a good university, so I never got the right degree. I grew up poor. People like me don't get the same opportunities. I would have started my own business by now, but the economy is terrible. Arian carried these explanations like armor. They protected him from a painful truth he was not yet ready to face. One evening after work, Arian stopped at a small tea stall near the edge of the market. The stall was run by an old man named Rajan, a quiet, gentle man with deep-set eyes and slow, deliberate movements. Arian had stopped there a few times before, but they had never spoken much. That evening, however, the market was unusually quiet. Arian sat down, ordered his tea, and out of habit began talking, complaining, really. He told Rajan about his unfair boss, about the colleague who got promoted despite being less capable, about the rich kids who had everything handed to them while he had to fight for every rupee. Rajan listened patiently, saying nothing. He poured the tea slowly, stirred it gently, and placed it on the counter. After Arian finally finished, the old man asked one simple question. "Beta, in everything you just told me, how much of it was about you?" Arian blinked. "What do you mean?" "You spoke for 10 minutes, Rajan said calmly. You mentioned your boss 3 times. Your colleague twice. The economy. Your parents. Your background. But not once did you mention yourself. Not once did you say, here is what I did, here is what I tried, here is where I fell short." Arian opened his mouth to respond, but the words wouldn't come. "I am not criticizing you," Rajan continued, wiping down the counter slowly. "I am just asking, if everyone else is responsible for your life, then who is living it?" That night, Arian could not sleep. He lay on his small bed staring at the ceiling, and for the first time in years, he allowed himself to ask a question he had been avoiding for a long time. What have I actually done to change my situation? He thought carefully. Yes, his boss was difficult. But had Arian ever directly asked for more responsibility? No. Had he ever arrived early, stayed late, or gone beyond what was expected of him? Rarely. Had he learned any new skills in 4 years? No. Had he applied to other firms? Never, because he was convinced they wouldn't hire someone like him anyway. The armor he had been wearing so proudly suddenly felt very heavy. The next morning, Arian woke up earlier than usual. Something had shifted inside him, not dramatically, not loudly, but quietly and firmly, the way a door closes on a room you will never return to. He made a list. Not a list of excuses. A list of actions. He would enroll in an online accounting certification course, one he had known about for 2 years but always dismissed as pointless. He would ask his boss directly for a chance to handle one client independently. He would update his resume and send it to 3 firms every single week. And he would stop, completely stop, talking about what others had done to hold him back. The first few weeks were humbling. His boss was skeptical when Arian asked for more responsibility. "You've never shown interest before," the men said bluntly. Arian did not argue, did not blame. He simply said, "I know. I'm asking now." His boss gave him a small client to manage, almost as a test, perhaps expecting failure. Arian stayed up late studying every detail of that account. He prepared more thoroughly than he had prepared for anything in his life. When he presented his work, even his critical boss had to nod in quiet approval. 1 month passed. Then 2. Then 3. Arian completed his certification. He began arriving at work 30 minutes early, not to impress anyone, but because he had started to feel a deep, unfamiliar sense of ownership over his own days. He stopped spending his evenings complaining and started spending them learning finance, communication, basic business strategy. The change did not go unnoticed. 6 months after that quiet evening at the tea stall, Arian was called into his boss's office. He was offered a promotion, a senior accounts executive role with a 30% salary increase. As he walked out of that office, he felt something he had not felt in years. Not just happiness. Something deeper. Pride. Not the pride of proving others wrong, but the pride of knowing he had built something with his own hands. He went back to Rajan's tea stall that evening. "Something happened today," Arian said, sitting down with a wide smile. Rajan poured the tea without asking and nodded. "I got promoted," Arian said. "But that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is, I understand now what you asked me that night. If everyone else is responsible for my life, then who is living it?" The old man smiled, a slow, warm smile. "You know," Rajan said, "I ran this tea stall for 20 years. When I was young, I also had reasons. My father left us nothing. My neighborhood had no opportunities. I had no connections. For years I told myself that story. And every year, the story stayed exactly the same, because I kept telling it." He paused, placing both hands flat on the counter. "The day I stopped asking, 'Why did this happen to me?' and started asking, 'What can I do about it?' that was the day this small stall stopped being a burden and became something I was proud of." The 2 men sat in comfortable silence for a while, sipping their tea as the evening settled around them. Here is what Arian's story teaches us. Blaming others feels safe. It feels logical. Sometimes it even feels fair, because yes, life is not always equal. Some people do start with less. Some people do face unfair circumstances. That is real. But here is the difference between people who rise and people who remain stuck: it is not the absence of obstacles. It is the decision about who is responsible for getting past them. The moment you say my life is my responsibility, not your parents' responsibility, not your boss's responsibility, not society's responsibility, something powerful happens. You stop waiting. You stop explaining. You start moving. Self-responsibility does not mean blaming yourself for everything that went wrong. It means choosing to be the author of what happens next. Because the truth is simple and it is powerful, you cannot change what you blame on others. You can only change what you own.